So Marvin, I just wanted to find out a little bit about your story. Tell me, when did you, what years did you serve in the military, and what was your, and where did you serve?
I was a aviation machinist mate, and I served in the Navy in the Pacific. Engaged in 5 major engagements. Physically, no, with on a carrier or on a aviation repair ship. I was on 6 different carriers doing changeovers, upgrades. What I mean by upgrades on the fighters and dive bombers, they did what they could to improve the performance of the planes while waiting for the later models to come out, like the Wildcats. We're waiting for the Hellcats to come out. And it was a difference of day and night. When the Hellcats come out, the planes were so superior to the Japs that the ratio really just reversed itself.
So tell me a little bit about, what you actually did in the service. So it sounds like you were taking care of the planes, is that correct?
No, the factory had a representative down. I was at the Naval Air Station in Florida, and the representative came down from Long Island, and there was a delicate machining operation that had to be done on the nose cone, which, if you can see, the diameter about that of a nose cone. But the work we had to do was offset from center. And therefore, when we placed that nose cone on a big lathe, it went around and it was lopsided. It looked lopsided. It looked like the lathe was going to throw the nose cone halfway around the room. So when I had to go in through the propeller shaft with a tool and come back blind and drill and tap a hole for the insertion of the new plug that they were going to put in. So it attracted a lot of attention. And I was a tool and die maker before I went into service. Also was going to college at the University of Pennsylvania and taking mechanical engineering. So it fit in pretty good from 38 to 42. So I had 4 years of experience, or 3.5. And when I went down to Florida and they put me in the machine shop, we had a boss that he knew tractors, and that was about it. So I ended up being one of his top men.
So now, where were you based during the war? Where were you, General?
Okay. Well, I was working on one of these nose cones, and it was offset. And I happened to look up. There were 4 or 5 officers coming down the aisle, and they see this large nose cone, lopsided. So they stopped and really looked. And I did not know they were there. I finally looked up and they were looking. So I went back doing what I was doing. And 2 days later, they called me up to the office. And they said, Hume, we're going to put you on temporary detached duty. Okay? Get some gear together, and you leave tomorrow on a PBY, and they're going to fly you out to some carriers, and I want you to convert the carriers. You know the operation. We cannot afford to have any of the nose cones spoiled due to improper machining. So that's what happened. And I ended up on 6 different, carriers. And of course, they did their regular thing, which included going into battle. And I was down on the 3rd deck.
Yeah, that's kind of hazardous working conditions, wouldn't you say?
It was. You never knew. You heard all the guns going off and the kamikazes. And I was on 2 carriers that were hit. But the fire control took care of it. So it was, you're down there and you knew these things were happening. You couldn't do anything about it. So you just kept on with your work.
Well, you had an important job to do. It had to happen. It had to be
That's
done.
right. It had to be done. And when I got done with the fighters particularly the Japs with their Zeros, had really control of the United States Wildcat fighters until they came out with a new Hellcat. And that was the basis of how I started out. Then we got a problem with supply parts when a plane, the fighters or the dive bombers, approached an island, and they would strafe and drop bombs, but they would have 25,000 Japs shooting their rifles, resulting in the loss of hydraulic lines, wiring of different types. Then they ran out of parts. 12,000 miles from home, you cannot order it overnight. The best thing to do at that time was to send volunteers ashore to strip parts from planes that had crash landed. And guess who was a volunteer? So we'd go ashore, and one of the islands, Saipan, we were working on a plane, and all of a sudden, bang, I'm on the ground. Fortunately, I wasn't killed. 2 of the fellows were on that side of that plane, the opposite side. They received a full blast and killed them both. And I had been splattered in my face and chest and in my legs, but from my knees on up, the plane protected me. And I never knew until I had my triple bypass here 7 years ago. And the surgeon took x-rays. He says, "Hey, pal, you know you have a piece of shrapnel in your chest bone, and there's evidently a hollow." And it had gone through the top layer, and it was a spent piece, evidently, because it didn't go on through. So when they operated, I said, "Hey, I'd like to have that." And they said, "No, it's got to go to the lab." And that was over at Philadelphia VA.
Did you ever get that piece of shrapnel? Did they ever give it to you?
No, but I did get one. One came by and hit my leg, and I still have the scar, and it scraped the bone. And the surgeon said, "Pal, another inch you would have lost your left foot." But I still have it. And I have that piece of shrapnel. It's about the size of a small egg or a large egg. It's misshapen, of course. but it went in the ground. It was on like a hill. And one of the guys who was with me said, "Man," he says, "I saw your pants leg disappear." It had just stripped the pants leg, and he said, "It's in this ground." And we dug it out. It's still warm. So I said, "I'm going to keep that."
Well, let me ask you this, Marvin. Obviously, you were in harm's way and you got some shrapnel and you experienced a lot of things. How important was the war in shaping your life? Did it have a major impact on your life, do you think, or not so much?
You know, I thought about that because I hear many other stories, but now it was just something we had to do, and we did. And we kind of laugh about it afterwards. Not laugh about it, but it did not make any kind of an impact. In fact, there are very few guys that I was with on different carriers. There was no fear, just do your job, get that guy. And that was the attitude. It was with me, at least. So we had ourselves a good time, other than when we got into battle. But as a result of getting, I had one wound that ripped open my left hand on the palm, and it wouldn't heal. And they kept, and that happened in the jungle when we were getting a plane, and it wouldn't heal. And finally, got on a sick bay there, and they took a culture, and they said, "Uh-oh, what's the matter?" "Well, we're going to have to send you home." "Why?" "Well, what you have is a rare thing, and we cannot treat it here. We're going to send you back to Florida. They have a lot of skin problems." So here I am back at my original base. I'm in the hospital for 30 days. My hands in purple potassium permanganate. And 5 times in 1 month, I lost all the skin off both hands, and each time I'd have new bubbles come up, maybe 1,000 bubbles on each hand. And that yellow purple skin hanging, I looked pretty bad, in fact. We had USO girls come visit the ward, and as they come down the ward, and they're going in between the beds visiting each guy. And so I thought, oh boy, here they come. And they didn't come in. They stood out in the aisle, and they looked at me with a sad look. I said, "Well, come on in and talk." And they said, "Our schedule is very busy." And then didn't they go to everybody else? After they left, some of the guys said, "Boy, we fixed you. We told them girls, don't go near that guy. He's got leprosy, and you'll get it." Well, that's what you call comradeship. You laugh about it, you know. If you got mad, you'd give yourself away. Then, after I completed all of that, they had aviation repair ships, big amphibious. They were bigger than a LST. Complete shops in there. It was beautiful. We go in a pair ships, we could completely rebuild a plane. And we would go up on the beach after the Marines initially had cleared their way. And the Marines would attack an island that had an airstrip. And of course, the Japanese, prior to leaving, would blow everything up. So we go up there, and we had trucks that could go ashore. And again, we'd pull planes out. We had a crane. And I didn't neglect. I could not find a picture I took. I had to take a picture of every plane we worked on. But we were back there in the jungle, and my buddy says, "Hey, Hume, take a look there." So I looked up, and about 20 yards away, there's a white piece of cloth tied on a stick, waving. And we looked, and you could see the 3 forage caps, Japanese forage caps, not the helmet. They were the cloth forage caps. I said, "Them Japs, yeah. They look like they want to surrender, but you never know. They're tricky." We got a hold of a big guy, had a Thompson. He come up. "What's wrong, fellas?" He said, "Take a look." And there's that flag waving. He says, "Oh boy. And any of you guys handle a Thompson?" Well, we all could, because we had to train with all of those. He says, "You hold it." He said, "I'm going to have them come out. And if I see that they're pulling out a grenade or something, I'm going to fall flat, and you just open up." So he waved for them to come out. And they come out, and I grabbed my camera, and I took a picture, and I wish I could find it. It's in a book that I put it in for safekeeping. Safe or right. Can't find it. And you just look and see the fright in those 3 Japs' eyes. They really thought this was their last moments on Earth. Just absolutely terror-stricken. But he bent, and we got the picture, shows the back of the Marine bent over, frisking him. And he says, "Well, they appear clean, but I don't know." So he made them strip, and they took everything off except that they wear a diaper, just like a regular diaper. And they have some kind of a tie on it. Had them grab their clothes, and they took them off down the beach for intelligence, I imagine. And that was on Okinawa. And Okinawa is where we had orders to get up on the beach. The Marines had gone in far enough. And they were still fighting. You could hear everything going off, particularly on the southern part. And as our ship was coming up, the aircraft carrier Franklin was steaming. No, they weren't. They just kind of moseying a little. They weren't dashing in. And here come a kamikaze. And a kamikaze is pretty hard to get away from our fighters and the anti-aircraft gunners of the picket boats. But he got through, and he put a 550-pound bomb on the deck of the carrier. And the gentleman that you talked to just before, I was telling him about that. In a convalescent home, I had a triple bypass, and he had a knee replacement. And he said, "We were on the starboard side, and we saw that." So that was our connection. We did not even know each other at that time. So we went up on the beach and big ramp went down. We drove the trucks off. They were armor plated, but then you had to put the sides up to run this big gap lathe out. And all in all, you were just working constantly. You grabbed food when you could, but if you had time, you'd sit down and eat what the cooks on the ship were good. They'd give us great sandwiches and little cartons of milk or water. And we had even had a refrigerated water, like a water fountain, and the Marines would come back for more water, and they'd get it out of what they called blister bags. It was with water, and then they put tablets in there, and it tasted like some kind of cocktail. It was bitter.